Hey, what's up? Silas here. This is Sunday over here. This is the one where on Sunday I take a walk. I go out, I get the newspaper wherever I may be. I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. This is the May 6th. And I'm going to just read the headlines. I'm going to do this a little differently. I've been trying different ways of doing this thing where I normally go in and I started off just reading the headlines and just giving you my thoughts on it of the newspaper, two newspapers, the Sunday Nation and the Sunday Standard. And then the last 2 weeks that I did it, I didn't do it last week, and that's going to come into why I'm changing it this week. Um, the last 2 weeks I just read one paper, went to the cover, actually flipped through the entire thing to get you guys to see kind of what the paper is in that place. So what I'm going to do today, I got the Sunday Nation and the Sunday Standard. I'm going to go in and just go over the headlines, and then later on, I'm going to pick a story from last week's Sunday paper that I wanted to read into. And I think I'll be doing that more, where it's like kind of like 1 week I go through the headlines and things like that. Then I'll pick out a story, and then I'll read that story for the next Sunday or that Sunday after, kind of to let you guys know. And I might also kind of follow up on some of the stories from the previous week if there's anything like I was like, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what's going to happen. And then if something has happened with it since then, I'll kind of update you guys on it. So yeah, just getting into the headlines of today's, and then as I said after, I'm going to go into a story about a doctor apparently stealing body parts. What is he doing with his body parts? Is it for eating? Is it for selling? Is it for... You'll find out after the headlines. Okay, so here we go. Sunday Nation and the Sunday Standard. These are the papers. Let's start here with the Sunday Standard and see what the headlines are. Raila is our man for top job in the next poll, says Orengo. Now, Orengo is a politician here. Last chance. It's in what may stir controversy. Siaya senator declares that as things stand, former Prime Minister Odinga will be in the next presidential race to succeed Uhuru. So this is still 4 years away, yet they're still already jockeying to see who's going to be president next. And Raila Odinga is getting rather old, so people are thinking, okay, it's going to be his last hurrah. They thought this year was his last hurrah, but he's coming back again. And now people are worried. This is why people were mostly worried about the handshake that he had with President Uhuru Kenyatta, where they shook hands, and now people are just trying to wonder, okay, where are they going to get him? Some of his old people who are supporting him are now trying to say they're going to break off and get their own alliances. And here, as you can see, 2022 talks as Ruto meets with Gideon. Now, Gideon right here is Gideon Moi. He is a son of the second president of Kenya, the second president of Kenya, Daniel Arap Moi. So this is part of that whole legacy thing. This happens all over the world. It's not just the United States of America with the Bushes, with the Kennedys, with these kind of dynastic families. This is a thing that happens. And who's got a big family too? The God Emperor Donald J. Trump. You could just have a situation where this Trump's coming over. Donald Trump Jr. could get in, and Eric Trump could get in, then Ivanka could be the first female president. And then somewhere down the line, 2050 around there, Barron Trump could get in as well. But yeah, so here we go. So I'm sorry, William Ruto. Here he is the current vice president of the country, and he was also left out of that agreement with Uhuru Kenyatta. That was secret talks between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga over here. They had secret talks, so he feels left out. He's like, hey, now if Raila is going to get in, he thought he was the one who was in, so now he's trying to get this thing. And you can see here, leave Moi out as senator. Presidential succession politics takes center stage in the burial of Baringo South MP Grace Kipchoim. Now, that's one thing that happens here in Kenya that I really despise. And I talk about, politics can be, I like people talking about politics kind of all over the place and everywhere, as you can see from my channel and things like that. But in Kenya, church services, weddings, funerals, politicians show up and give speeches and things like that. Disgusting to me. I'm like, hey, let it go. Let it go. But yeah, that's something that's happening there now. As I said, 4 years away, and they're already at this. Right here, Lupita Nyong'o, Lupita's secret visit stirs Kisumu. Now, Kisumu is, I think, the third biggest city in Kenya. It's Nairobi, and then it's Mombasa, and then it's Kisumu. And that's in Western Kenya. Nyong'o, I'm not sure what clan or tribe she's from. If I had more knowledge about Kenyan tribes, I'd actually know just from her name. But from her complexion, and I'm thinking she could be Luo, but that's in Western Kenya. As I mentioned before, I am from the Luhya tribe, and that's also Western Kenya region. but she's secret visits. She was supposed to come down for the Black Panther premiere at the IMAX movie in Kisumu, but some things happened and she didn't show up. But I don't know if she had a secret visit just to reschedule. But this is just that whole celebrity talk thing, and I mentioned this previously. I've been talking about the Kanye thing, and the big things about this. I think this is why people are really freaking out, because the knock-on effects of having celebrities speak about certain things, this attraction that people have to celebrities, is a major thing, and it's something that I have underestimated the effect of just being famous has on what people listen to, what and how people listen to what you say. And I need to consider that and also try to see, can I get the important things? Can I say important things, and can you put them out there without having some level of fame? Like you look at someone like Thomas Sowell, who I think says some amazing smart things, yet he's not that famous. So if no one hears you, they're not going to be able to listen to anything you say. So first of all, is being able to be heard. Okay, so how cartels could collude to snatch land from owners. Elaborate scheme. We lift the lid on how crooks and government officials collude to dispossess owners of their property. Now, there's something here. Today, I was kind of trying to go watch The Avengers, came back because the movie was too full. It was like 2 front rows. I'm not going to sit at the front row, even though it's a discounted price. If I go early, I'm just going to go tomorrow. But I came back and I tried to go to this mall, and the mall was had a fire yesterday. And with that fire, I'm like, okay, the people dispossessing things. I'm like, okay, there could be things stolen and things like that. But people go in there, and that's a separate story. Something else. I'll talk about that somewhere else. But the whole dispossessing people of things. Now, this is the government officials collude to dispossess owners of their property. So it's kind of thinking this kind of situation, somebody goes in, there's a fire, some of your things are destroyed, you might have insurance, but if you go in, I bet some people also steal things in those kind of situations. Some mistrust of people. Now, I don't know if that's just a general mistrust for state kind of incidents, a general mistrust for people here in Kenya, the firemen and things like that. But yeah, I'm just kind of thinking, because this kind of thing apparently did happen during the Westgate attack, the Westgate Mall attack, back in 2012, I think. Not 2012. Yeah, 2012, I think, the Westgate attack then. There was a fire in that mall. The place was cleared out, of course, because there was a terrorist incident after. Then the fires were lit. And then there was these reports on actual video of the Kenya Defense Forces going in there and stealing, looting things from the stores and restaurants and bars and kind of stores that were in that mall. So I'm wondering if a similar thing is happening here in Sarit now with this fire that some people said was just a small fire and then turned out to a thing where some reports are saying 8-hour fire. Now, I don't know if that story is going to be somewhere in these papers, but I looked online to find some stories. So how Kenya got into the Chinese trade hole. As Beijing's envoy's term ends, we revisit the fight with the U.S. over Africa links and balance of trade. So this is something that's also being discussed here. I know there's some concerns in the United States of America of China extending its influence, and that's also talks that are being had here locally about the effect of that. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see that. I know some people talk about in the United States of America, most of my listeners are from the United States of America, but I've had that opinion, or that, I don't want to say the privilege, I've had that opportunity to see things from the other end where it's like, okay, how are things looked at from this end? Do people here think what China is doing is negative, or do they think it's positive? So some people think it's negative. There's also discussions here about that. Free health plan to cost shilling 543 billion. Free health plan costs 543 billion. Free cost. Free cost. Free things don't cost things, or the most expensive things are free. That's one saying that's talked about when you talk about politics. I really dislike this. I have one friend, one of my best friends, probably my best friend, but we often have conversations about health situations. Like we're talking about the Alfie Williams situation, the kid who was in a situation in the United Kingdom, and we were talking about that, and I was like, what are your thoughts about this with the health situation of that kid? And people are saying this is how it has when you have socialized, nationalized medicine, like they're trying to bring here in Kenya. And she's like, yeah, you don't have to pay for things, it's free. I'm like, no, quit saying it's free. You already talked about how you're saying that the taxes in that place are a lot higher in the United States of America, and that's why they have free healthcare. And I'm like, look, if you're taxed for it, it's not free. So I really hate this term, and they're trying to bring it here too. Free 543 billion. No, stop it. Stop. Okay, Sunday paper. Sight Rob one eye at a time. Oh God, if I went blind, I don't know. I think all my senses. If I couldn't hear, I'd be okay. I really like music and things like that. But if I couldn't hear, I really like speaking and things like that. I guess if I can't hear, I probably also wouldn't be able to speak as well as I can. But I'd still be able to draw. But I don't know. If I couldn't see, hey man, that would be rough. But yeah. Okay, so on to the Sunday Nation. Doctors pull out needles from baby. 2 hour surgery did not reveal a mystery of how 7 needles got into girl's little body. She probably ate them. They probably put them in. I don't know where they were. Were they in her stomach? That's horrific. Horrendous. Poor girl. Hope she's okay. So right here, Raila's radical plan to change power structure. Opposition chief in fresh push for parliamentary system and a 3-tier devolved structure to remove winner takes it all and bloody presidential contests. So what happens here in the presidential contest here? It's not like the United States of America where, oh, the Democrats and the Republicans or whoever else, libertarians have somebody, they're vying for presidency, and then in all the other positions and whatnot, there's kind of people to select from, and then they're getting in, and it's like, oh, there's senators and things like this. In a situation like this, it's normally, hey, I guess it also happens with the United States presidency, although there's carryovers and things like that. But it gets to a situation where the president gets in, and then everybody who was in there in the previous, okay, let's say this is an incumbent, so he comes back in, but he gets to choose everybody in his cabinet. He gets to appoint people in all kinds of positions, and there's a lot more knock-on effect. So I think there's something here with a 3-tier devolved system where they're trying to reduce the centralized power of it, but what they're doing is spreading it out into the counties and regions and things like that. But that's also adding more public servants. And I think I saw something, a report, don't quote me on this is kind of a loose idea, where I heard that something like 75% of government expenditure goes to pay public servants in Kenya. That is a lot. So all the money that's taxed, plus money that's given in foreign aid and things like that, goes to pay salaries. So how much is actually going to actually services of people? So the taxation is pretty much just to pay people in the government, in the state. That's the way it goes. But so this system, this 3-tier devolved system, I've heard some people talk about it. I haven't looked into it that much. But some people are saying this is going to add more public servants, add more corruption, add more, it's not checks and balances, add more hurdles for people to get things done. So I don't really necessarily think this is actually devolution. It's like devolution by multiplication, which is not necessarily, I think when something is devolved, it becomes simpler, not more complicated. So I think this is a misuse of words. And this is something that Stefan Molyneux has said, pretty much when it comes to the government, anything they say, imagine the opposite result, and that's how you'll get to understand what's going on. So when they're talking about devolution, devolved, they're actually talking about something evolving and becoming more complicated, more advanced. It's actually the government evolving into something else, not devolving. Knut executive kicks out Sossion. So Knut, the Kenyan National Executive Council members celebrated after they announced that Mr. Hezbon Otieno Center. Is it Hezbon? Oh, you see now with this image. I don't know. For me, this is the center of the image. Yeah, that's probably Hezbon Otieno. The new Secretary General at the union's headquarters in Nairobi yesterday. So Hezbon Otieno, this is the teachers' union. Knut is the teachers' union for all the public teachers, public school teachers. And there's a massive system that's building up, yet there's still, I think, a lot of private schools. They've been on strike on and off. I've mentioned this before, how there's almost a strike every year, at least one or two. There's been a massive one going on. Kids are out of school right now. I think part of the reason I went to the movie today and it was completely full, first 2 rows, was some kids are out of school. Yet, private schools, they have their own agreement. So I just met a whole bunch of my cousins, nieces and nephews, I guess. It's like my cousins' kids. But some of them are like in college, some of them are like in their 20s, late 20s. But the youngest one I saw when I first came back to Kenya, like back in 2011 after being gone for 17 years or so, was just like a baby. So wee little baby. And now he's like higher than my waist. And the one who was like higher than my waist when I first came back was like almost as tall as me. But anyway, they go to private schools and they were still at school. So there's this kind of situation. The big thing was unions and teachers here in Kenya. That's always a back and forth thing with the teachers union and the department, the Ministry of Education here in Kenya. And I wish the federal government would just come out of it. The central government would come out of schooling like it would in the United States of America. Donald J. Trump is pulling the federal funding out of schools and saying, take it back to the state level. I think in that situation, there actually is some kind of situation where he's doing something different. Hopefully, because I think that's a positive thing. And the rest of the world does look at him the same way that you have celebrities. People look at celebrities. Oh, she's successful in the United States of America. She's on movies. She's in things like this. What does she do in her life? I want to be like her. I want to wear what she's wearing. I want to wear hairstyles like her. I want to go where she goes, say what she says, does what she does. That's how the United States of America is looked at. It's a celebrity, and people learn from it and want to do things like it's done there. Ruto allies tell off Moi in burial showdown. Again, it's the same thing these things at funerals. Disgusting. So some of his allies are like, why are you bringing this person in? Because they're also trying to get their position. So despite Mr. Ruto and the senator shaking hands and sitting close to each other, the DP's allies, deputy president, not vice president, the deputy president's allies did not hold back, asking the latter to drop his 2022 ambitions. Mr. Ruto steered clear of the Thursday drama by the KANU chairman, but the KANU chairman urged his critics to leave his father alone. I'm really begging you to stop involving my father in this. I do not have a problem with anyone who wants to say anything about me, but I'm requesting you keep my father out of this, said Mr. Moi. Now, Mr. Moi, as I mentioned, is the son of the second president of Kenya, Daniel Arap Moi, who is he's a well-respected elder now. They still have a lot of that ancestral culture, that elder culture here in Nairobi, Kenya, in general, which I don't think somebody should just be respected just because they're old. And I might have talked about this before, but let me mention it here. I get to this kind of thing where it's like, I understand if you live in a place in the past, historically, people didn't really travel that much. If you lived in a village, in an area, in like a 50 square kilometer area, and you managed to live there for 60, 70 years, you know pretty much everything about that area. You know what plants you can eat. You know weather patterns. You know times of days. You know the kind of animals that come in. You know how to build houses there, fix certain things. So it makes sense for anybody who is like in their teens or younger, or just even younger than you, any bit younger than you, who's also stayed in that same area, has not collected the same amount of information that's pertinent to the area that they live in. So they give you some kind of deference. They give you some kind of respect. And like, yeah, okay, I get that. I can come and understand you. But there's some people, if I went to the village where my parents were raised, and there's village chiefs there who really still have that same position where they can walk around like, yeah, that's Kanzira, that's Kunde, that's this and this, that's Managu, you can cook that in this way, you can plant it in this way, you're supposed to put this much water, oh, that's this kind of animal, oh, if you hear this sound, that's probably the sign that there's some danger outside, those kind of things. So if I went there and I was living there in that kind of sense, I'd be like, yes, I will respect that person to like have that more knowledge and actually have something where I'm like, yes, I'm holding you at a certain point. But if I'm trying to like create better YouTube videos or just create better content, create better animation, start a business, start an international business, that guy has zero to say to me. So I'm not just going to automatically respect that guy on everything. It's kind of a situational respect that I think is there. So, but that thing still kind of goes here where people are respecting Moi for that position. And also, as I mentioned with the fame and things, people are like, hey, if you've been successful at something, maybe you can also help me be successful at what I want. But I think you should be more careful about, does that person's sphere of knowledge or influence actually affect you? Do you guys actually have the same kind of situation? But he's telling leave my dad out of this because they're kind of talking about this. And KANU was the party that I think his father and somebody else started, and now he's taken over that. Lifestyle, the pain and joy of adoption. I am getting older in my life, so that's kind of a thing I have to consider. I've never really been too big a fan of adoption, but also this kind of thing where it's been very key to me to understand what family and relatives are. You don't get to pick your relatives. Relatives are genetic, but you get to pick your family. If somebody's adopted, those parents are your parents. Colin Kaepernick's parents are white because that's his family. And his black father that impregnated his black biological father that is his relative, his father relatively white, biological father, and white mother who gave birth to him and then put him up for adoption. I wouldn't necessarily consider those his family. That's kind of how I'm explaining here. So you can be in a situation where you can learn things, and that's the same things with like nationality. I think like you are genetically of a certain, like I said in that video where it's like I happen to be black. I am a Luya tribe. My skin is this color. This is just who I am. But you see this hand, you can't say, okay, this is an American hand, this is a Kenyan hand, this is a French hand. I've lived in all those places. I've had experiences in all those places. But the hand itself, that's something else. That's something that's built, that's something that's defined. That's a social construct. The genes, the genes that make this hand appear this way, look this way, have this color, have the ability to draw now. Okay, no, it's look this way. That's not out of my control. Choices now are taking this hand and finding things to secure this hand and protect this hand, not have lose this hand in some kind of injury, have had some kind of injuries to it, but to be able to learn and draw and create things with it. Now that's a choice added to the genetics. So there's kind of things like that, where there could be certain limitations, like if I wasn't born with a left hand, I would never be able to draw with a left hand, or if something happened to my left hand, I can't, even if I practiced all the time that I practiced with that left hand, it wouldn't be able to draw as well. Yet they could have had nerve damage or something like that. But that doesn't change the actual ability of the change of the that injury doesn't change the genetics of the hand itself, though they are epigenetics, but that's for some other thing. Watch my video on evolution. I think I need to do a backup. I need a continuation of that. So last last headline here: whistleblower or con artist who targets the rich. Meshach Dahai has accused powerful people of fraud involving billions. This might be the article that I'm going to read out of all of these, because I think that's kind of interesting me, because people say like, oh, is an accusation just an accusation? Me Too, that kind of movement where it's like, are these people guilty just because he's accused them? In some situations, people tend to give people more of the benefit of the doubt if they've been accused about something. Hillary Clinton was accused for being corrupt and things like this. They said, oh, they've had all these investigations and nothing has happened, so stop with these things, stop with this nonsense. Donald J. Trump was accused of collusion with the Russians. Investigations have happened. A few investigations have happened. Some of them have gone out, but people are like, hey, the investigation is still going on. So, hey, what are you guys talking about? Why are you saying he's innocent? Even though, the House committee came out and said there was no proof. But they're like, oh, well, this other investigation is still going on. So people are like, with Hillary Clinton, there's things coming up like, why don't you leave her alone? Why is 17 haven't worked? Lack of consistency. Very frustrating. So yeah, that's it for the headlines. And now I'm going to switch over and read the other article from last week. As I mentioned, doctor stealing body parts. That article I was talking about. I'm recording this about a week after recording the first part. And it's already Sunday here again. So it's going to be another Sunday one I'm going to go get today. Apologies on the delay. Had some things going on. At least my body parts weren't stolen by some doctor doing something, just some other things in my life going on. That's why I didn't post any videos this week. But anyway, let's get into this. The top doctor faces body parts theft charges. So when I say body parts, that's one of the terms that's kind of odd to me, because here it says, police ordered the arrest of former chief government pathologist Moses Njue, who is accused of stealing the heart of a polygamous man who died in controversial circumstances in 2015. And this is an arrest done in 2018. They're talking about here the medical board also probing the matter after the deceased family filed a petition. Now here they're talking about body parts. Body parts sounds like it's a multiple thing. We'll read the article and see if he's done it to more people. But is body parts the kind of thing where it's like, someone won't say body part, they'll say body parts here if you're talking about one body part, one part of the body, because it's just the heart. But I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it's like body parts all the time. It's used in plural. But anyway, so at a glance, the DPP has recommended Dr. Njue to be charged with 3 counts, including theft contrary to Section 275 of the Penal Code, willful destruction of evidence, and illegal removal of body parts, contrary to the Anatomy Act. Dr. Njue has denied taking the heart and stated that the body parts were disposed of. Now, my assumption of this is with a polygamous sex, there might be a thing where somebody thinks like, oh, if you take the heart, then you can get some power. I know a lot of people think that's how it is. A lot of situations in Africa are like that. But as you can see here, there's laws and rules and things like that against it. There's a process to go through, the actual health process to go in and actually try and, a law process, a legal process to try and get that rectified if you think there's been a problem. When you still see those random stories, or stories of, oh, like somebody ate somebody's heart or somebody did this, I think when you look at that in Africa, That's the equivalent story of somebody looking at a shooting in the United States of America, a school shooting, and saying that's how it happens in all schools in the United States of America. When you guys see those things, or you see those things where there's some really crazy thing on the left politically, I'm trying to even think of something, but there's something absurd where somebody's like, oh, we need to have like the cry closet. There was a cry closet in the school where kids were going into the closets and crying in this closet for like 10 minutes during exams and during finals and things like that. And then if somebody looks at that and says that's what the United States of America is like, those things are not indicative of the United States of America. Just like these random situations where you have somebody eating a body part like that are not indicative of places in Kenya, in Africa, and other countries, in my experience. I even saw this one article about some apparent like high class magic show or something like that in the United States of America, or something where somebody would cut some pieces off people's back and like feed them their blood or something. So that's like some weird thing that still happens in some places. But even the stories, I just saw a story in from, I think it was on Fox or something, foxnews.com, about some lady who her and her husband had something where they had like extramarital affairs together, but they had a pact where they would kill the person who actually got in that extramarital relationship with them, and then she got jealous and ended up killing him and might have chopped him up and served him to other people as barbecue. Now you see that thing, that is a crazy person. There's crazy people everywhere. It's not necessarily just crazy people in Africa. But let's get to the story here. Page 3. Here's Dr. Moses Njue doing an interview in his office in King's Medical College in Nyeri County in February 18th, 2015. And there's another thing I'm also talking about. When you just talk about access to healthcare, there's a difference with access to healthcare and actually getting healing. You can have access to all sorts of healthcare and not necessarily be getting something positive. That's how you see it in Cuba. That's how you see it in a lot of these places in complete socialized medicine. That's how you look at it. And it's like, yes, everybody can go to a clinic and eventually be looked at by someone, but will it be valuable? Will it be actually something that's going to heal you? And in most of these cases, the basic things, yes, you can just get in, you have like a cut in your finger, things like this. But if you have something like cancer, if you have something that actually is life-threatening at that moment, in many cases, it's not as simple to just go in there and get that thing treated. So I'm going to try to go paragraph by paragraph and then give my opinions after. So, former Chief Government Pathologist Dr. Moses Njue could soon be charged in court after the Director of Public Prosecutors, DPP, directed that the arrest and prosecution for stealing body organs, saying switching body organs instead of, see, also using organs there instead of just parts. This is weirding me out. In a report prepared by the Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions, CM Waniki, the Chief Prosecutor directed that Dr. Njue, who resigned from the government a few years ago to start his own medical school, be charged with theft of the body parts belonging to Benedict Carrao, who died mysteriously on March 2nd, 2015. Now this died mysteriously thing. Actually, I'm trying to think, like, if it was died mysteriously, it might not be to take that. Maybe he was getting some kind of procedure and then the heart might show what actually ended up killing him if he was responsible. But let's see how this goes. What do you guys think? The DPP recommended that Dr. Njue be charged with 3 counts, including theft contrary to Section 275 of the Penal Code, willful destruction of evidence, and illegal removal of body parts contrary to the Anatomy Act. I'm trying to see this. This is one thing I've been noticing, both in online articles and other ones. I don't know if it happens in videos. I don't know if that's beneficial for me to do in my videos to get people to actually listen to these things, but that tend to repeat the stuff. This paragraph, I think, is actually... The DPP has recommended Dr. Njue be charged. It's verbatim, this paragraph. And there's this thing I see normally. It's like, okay, they repeated, this is a title here. Top doctor faces body part theft charges. Top pathologist faces body part theft charges. This whole repetition thing, where by the time you've gotten into the article, you've read the title, you've read the little excerpts out there, then you've read the title again, you've read the excerpts. The repetition part of it is something that really weirds me out. I don't really like repetition. I like consistency, and I don't think those two things are the same thing. One of my really good friends, we had this short conversation about it. Could do a separate video about that. But this whole repetition thing, what do you guys think about that in newspapers, in articles? Why do you think it's done that much? Do you think it's effective? Do you think people wouldn't read? People would forget what was going on? I just padding the length of the thing. It's really odd to me. Some online things, you'll see it where it's like, okay, you click the title. Anyway, no. Yeah, you click, and then it's the same thing in different words. Then the opening, like this is something, and then repeated a couple of times in paragraphs, repeated at the end. So you can have a situation where you can have a 5-paragraph story, and 3 of those paragraphs are essentially the title repeated, and it really weirds me out. I'm like, why are you doing this? You're wasting my time here. Just tell it to me. Why am I clicking this? Anyway, so back into this. So in regards to the missing body organ, here they're putting with the S. There we go. Organs. You are directed to arrest Dr. Moses Njue and cause him to be charged with the following offenses, reads part of the letter by Ms. Mwaniki, dated April 14th this year. Other than the DPP recommending his arrest and prosecution, the Medical Practitioners and Dentist Board is investigating the matter after the family of Mr. Karau, through Charles Mongela, lodged a complaint. Statements filed in the DPP's office state that the late Karau, a polygamous man, died in his house on a fateful night. So I'm wondering why they're even including polygamous man if that has nothing to do with this whole situation. His youngest wife, Martha Gakau, told his family that he choked while eating his supper and died. But not satisfied with the explanation, other family members asked for a post-mortem to be conducted on the body to establish the cause of his death. The family was in agreement that Ms. Gakau said she would send a private doctor to represent her. She hired Dr. Njue, and the autopsy was performed at Consolata Mission Hospital in Kubu, Meru County on March 12th, 2015. Now, Consolata is a Catholic kind of institution. There's a couple of schools and different kind of institutions all over the country with this. And in that aspect, I would say the Catholic Church, the Christian churches, have done a lot in establishing different kind of schools and hospitals and things like that all around the country in Kenya. Now, this is also done by Muslim churches, Muslim madrasas, not madrasas, but people of the Muslim faith in different situations. But since what they're preaching is a different thing, it's looked at in a different way. But this whole idea that what is happening right now with Saudi Arabia in Europe and things like that, they're doing their own missionary type thing. When the Christians did it, people were like, oh no. And I know the two religions are not interchangeable, but it's just the same kind of missionary type thing where they go out and they do these things. Islam could use some kind of reformation, but I'm not holding my breath on that. Although the spread of information, actually, I'm not holding my breath on that because I'm breathing and watching, and I actually think it's actually something that's actually going to come. Fingers crossed. Not even fingers crossed. Knock them fingers apart. I actually think it's coming. A report presented to the family showed that the former administrator had died of a heart attack, but the family was shocked to learn that the body had been embalmed in the night and was taken to the mortuary. The body also had bruises and injuries on the head and hands. The family accepted the findings and buried Mr. Karau, and the following day, buried Mr. Karau the following day at his second wife's home in Ankamia location, Meru County. Mr. Mongela, who is a lawyer, said he would not be satisfied because there were rumors of commotion in the home the night his father died. He said that he was also not satisfied by the toxicology report, which indicated that the 70-year-old man had taken alcohol, yet he was a teetotaler. Teetotaler is this somebody who doesn't drink. So now the thing's getting a little more interesting here. It has little to do with this so far, with the whole taking of the body parts. The lawyer sought the assistance of Professor Wangai Kiyama, a fellow advocate who is also a medical doctor. The family later filed a case seeking exhumation of the body and fresh investigations. The exhumation was done on August 10th, 2015, and a team comprising of Chief Government Pathologist Dr. Johansen Odwor, Dr. Sylvester Maingi, Professor Kiyama, Dr. Scholastica Kimani and Dr. Njue did the examination. So Dr. Njue is this guy right here. So he had a couple of other fellows with him. The later two were involved in the first autopsy. The team was shocked to discover that the heart, one kidney, and other parts were missing. Okay, so I guess it was body parts. According to Dr. Odwar, the injuries on the upper part of the hand were defensive and most likely inflicted as he defended himself. Dr. Odwar also said that he could not establish the cause of the death without the heart. He recommended that the heart be traced. It is, it is then that Dr. Njue allegedly owned up, saying that he took the heart for more analysis and what he termed as a histology. Histology. Odd word. Histology. The family, however, said that he never informed them of the missing body parts and why he allowed the body to be buried minus the heart. I have this, excuse me, this thing I'm thinking about with burials and things like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of thinking when I die, I wouldn't mind just that whole thing of like my body just being put together with some soil and put a seed, and then you just plant that seed somewhere. I mean, you get some land the same way you'd get some land if you want to have like your coffin or your funeral in a burial plot or something. But just put my body in with a seed and let the tree grow. And I know there might be this thing where people might not want to eat the fruits from that tree because it's like, oh, it has people in its, it has human in its initial roots and things like that. But I think that makes more sense than just like burying people. I don't understand the point of just burying somebody whole. Now the person is dead anyway. When people do a thing of giving, these people might also be against, and he's also 70. They might also be against giving body parts, like, oh, I'm going to donate my body parts to somebody else. But this whole fascination, you have to bury the person whole. You have to bury everything with them. The soul is already gone, if you want to call it the soul. The thing that made the person is gone. It's just physical body at that point. Now, there's something I also saw where you have people like in the Hindu kind of religion culture, they have the whole like reincarnation thing, yet they're also okay with burning the bodies. And now you have a kind of thing where in Christian religions, Christian faiths, I think even the Muslim faith, they normally have funerals like really fast. Something like somebody dies on Friday, they bury it on Sunday type thing. It's like a really quick thing. Here in Kenya, sometimes the Christian faiths, depending on how people are, if you have like you see here in Mary County, if they were living in Nairobi at the time, the capital city, you have a situation where people are home squared in the countryside, and then you have people in the city, and you have to figure out how you're going to get the people to the city from the city to get to home, get enough people notified. But sometimes it can take almost 2 weeks before the person is actually buried. Like somebody like dies on Monday, it can almost be the 2 Sundays from that. So that week come in, and then the next Sunday where they're like, okay, now we have this thing planned, everybody's getting home, we have the fundraisers, we have like a service in Nairobi for the Nairobi people who can't travel, and then we go back to the countryside for the actual funeral. And it's a weird thing like that. So you have the situations where you have the people of the Christian faith who believe after the person dies, the soul goes and going to go to heaven and things like that. They have a lot more attachment to keeping the body whole. Yet the people who are reincarnation, who is like, hey, the soul's going to come back in a different body, like, yeah, just let go of the body. So that could have something to do with that. But I don't understand the Christian faith. Are they going to think like, okay, somehow this body can be brought back? And then like a zombie type stuff or things like that in the future where they're like, oh. One thing I wouldn't mind though is with that whole thing of me dying and things like that, I wouldn't mind somebody finding a way to store some of my DNA in case something can be done with that in the future. It's not outright cloning, but just things can be learned from it, but possibly cloning. Okay, where are we on this? I think we're here. Dr. Njue took the heart. Okay, so in the statement filed with the medical board, Dr. Kimani said she did not find it strange for her senior Dr. Njue to take away the body parts. I assumed he would inform the family of this decision since he was representing them. Unfortunately, I did not document it, she stated. The same was confirmed by the mortuary attendant. Dr. John Gavenia said that he was asked to get containers to carry away the organs. Dr. Njue is not new to the controversy. In 2000, while serving as a Nyeri provincial consultant pathologist, he performed autopsy on 6 inmates who had died in controversial circumstances at the Kingongo at the Kingongo prison. Contrary to what was stated by the government, Dr. Njue said that the 6 inmates were bludgeoned to death and did not fall from a wall trying to escape. He has published a book, Dare to be Different, in which he chronicles some of the high-profile cases where victims would have taken the truth to their graves were it not for the intervention of a pathologist. In his statement to the police, Dr. Njue denied taking the heart and other organs, stating that they were disposed of. In an explanation that the DPP now wants tested in court once the pathologist is charged. Okay, so doesn't seem to be anything all too suspicious here. This might be a cover-up of a situation. So let's go here. So before his sudden death, Mr. Karao had started the process of distributing his property among his children. He had 3 wives and owned land in Ankamia and some shops in Mikunduri, Meru County. Mr. Mongela had been pushing to know why and who ordered the embalmment of his father's body and why the matter was not reported at Mikunduri police station. Some of these words, it's just get your mind around. That's one thing that's, I mean, once you've been living in a place, you get kind of adjusted. I'll also separate video about that. How long does it take for you to get used to a language, used to pronunciation of certain things, and things like that? But yeah. So Mikunduri police station, which is nearby, instead the death was reported at Meru police station, about 10 kilometers away. The DPP was meanwhile also recommended an inquest into Mr. Karao's death. So, again, the story ended up being a lot more boring than I thought it would. Although, that's kind of probably some of what I was talking about here. The titles of things that we see in certain places jump out, and then you get to the actual article, and I know they're trying to sell papers. This is a newspaper. This is on the front page. You walk by, you see, top doctor faces body parts theft charges. First of all, guy's no longer the top doctor. The guy has kind of gone from his actual position at that point. This was in 2015. Now, how many people actually are still keeping up with this story, I don't understand. I don't know if this guy was famous enough, either the doctor or the person who was involved in this, to be actually something that people knew about. But top doctor, this makes you think, like, for me, I think this is like a doctor that's going on right now. Body parts, I'm thinking like, wow, this is several body parts from several people and things like that. But I guess buried back in the end of the story here, they talk about it might have happened with other people. So yes, it could be a situation where he's done it for several people. There's other doctors involved in this thing. It is kind of procedurally known that this is something that happens in hospitals. There's no situation where it's like, yes, this person was found like selling these body parts or eating these body parts. Most likely, they could have been something that he just forgot. Like, oh, he could have been paid by somebody. This is my thoughts. He could have been paid by somebody because that heart showed something, and then that, like, he was just like paid to cover that up. That's one option. He could have just said he forgot. This guy is probably busy doing a lot of things. This guy, I don't know how big of a person this Mr. Karao was. Because Mr. Karao, if he's not like a politician or somebody famous, this could be something that's just on the back burner for this guy. This guy was doing a lot of different things. He could have seriously just forgot. He could have just forgot to put those body parts back and was like, let's just bury the body. We're not going to do something. Somebody else in the whole system could have actually misplaced those body parts. There's a lot of different things that could have led to this. But just jumping to the whole part where it's like something's happening, it's like some kind of like selling of body parts and things like that. I think if you knew the person was 70, you'd already think something else different over there. I don't understand why they're talking about the polygamous thing over and over again, maybe just to set up the whole like different families and things like that into the situation. And that's another thing with polygamy. Even when you're alive, you get into different situations, but then when people die, now how do you deal with the actual burial plots and things like that? Why was he buried at the second wife's home instead of the first or second or third wives? There's a lot of things going into this. But yeah, so that's it for this edition to the Sunday over here with from last weekend. Now I'm going to go on my walk. Nice day out. And try to get food, groceries, and the paper for today and see if there's anything interesting for that one. Goodbye.